Hi everyone, welcome to Tarot Map. I'm Kasia. These are the nails of the video. Summer nails. The summer is still going on strong in Europe, at least for the last couple of days, because as I mention every video, this summer sucked. But I just watched a video by Robin's Reflection and she made a video about 6 decks she has fallen back in love with thanks to other decks or new decks entering her collection. And I thought it's a fun tag to, do a VR to. So I have a couple of decks. I didn't get too many new decks recently, but I wanted to share what has been awoken in me when a few of the new decks ventured into my collection and what other decks, my oldies from my collection, I pulled out of the shelves to play with these ones. So let's start with the Color Vision Oracle, because I have been into color for a little while before I got this deck, but definitely my awoken interest in color, let's call it like that, got me interested in this particular deck. And then Alison has kindly sent me her Oracle deck for a review. So I did a review with this deck. I also did a very interesting interview with the creator, with Alison Kaler. Highly recommend checking it out if you haven't yet. So after I got the Color Vision Oracle, I mentioned I was already playing with color and returning to my color decks. So the Color Vision Oracle got me back into an array of decks. Okay, so first of all, the first one that I totally felt drawn to was Farben der Engel, which is like Colors of the Angels by Darsha Willing. It's an old deck and it's it's 110 cards and it's inspired by Orasoma bottles. So what the creator did, she just, shook the bottles. Basically, they all these different colors. She shook them and took images, took photographs in close-ups from the mixing of the colors and from the bubbles that were created. So there we go. And I really like this deck. It's kind of very intuitive, but especially if you are interested in Orasoma system or Orasoma colors, or just in colors per se, because they can be read very intuitively. So the Oracle, Color Vision Oracle comes with all these different Oracle cards, and I was just, there you go. I was just pulling cards to see what the combinations can bring up, right, for me. And I think it's just an interesting way to play with the color, and especially that here you do have some keywords. In the other deck you have also a booklet that explains what angel or angelic energy can be connected to these two colors. So combining them together just makes an extra layer of playing. All right, so yeah, the Farben der Engel came back out of the depths of the shelves and I have been playing with this deck, as of course I also have pulled my trusty Orasoma deck that the foil is a little bit destroyed now. I've been using this deck a lot. And it's been traveling with me. So this one has the bottles at the back of the cards, and I don't think you can get the one with the bottles anymore. I think this is out of print, but you can, I think, still get the ones with just plain bags. And here is the artwork for like a reinterpretation of the bottles and the colors themselves. So this one also came up, and as I mentioned, it goes quite cool with the color is what is it? Color Vision Oracle. So Orasoma and Color Vision Oracle, they go pretty cool together as well. and just being me. I love inventing stories in my head with these cards. You know, how cool is that? As transformation came up, and this is death return, so the second set of the major arcana. You can watch the review of the Aura Soma Tarot on my channel as well. If you don't know this deck, it's a very interesting take on major arcana specifically. So it has more cards than 78. It has two sets of major arcana. One is the realized set, so first you start as a fool and you go on fool's journey, and then you kind of have that return journey, which is more integrated approach. So okay, Aura Soma, Farbender Engel, Zillish Tarot, beautiful, sweet deck. I know I'm very late to the game to play, but it's such a wonderful take on Toph. So this copy I received from my friend Eva. Thanks, Eva. And you can see that she wrote also the astrological associations on the cards. They weren't there, just in case you were wondering. She also etched the cards. But it's a wonderful watercolor reimagining of Toph cards, and it's just a wonderful deck for color readings, because you get this intuitive blending of colors and you get just wonderful imagery. So this one also goes you know, like really well with the color vision oracle. And I just love, oh, like how cool is that? The Hermit and the card is mastery. I love when these synchronicities happen, you know. So justice here and dominance. So in this case, you could of course think of how dominance being taken maybe as like dominating someone will receive its justice at some point in time. You never know when the justice will catch up with you, but it will. And also dominance could be seen as two of wands, like domination. What is the keyword for the Toph? Two of wands. Dominion, right? Dominion. And it can be seen like when imbalanced and done with a proper alignment, you can use the energy you have in your access, you know, that is accessible to you in the right way. So there's always ways of interpreting cards, right? But like how beautiful this one, and we can see how it could look so well with expression. So yeah, Zillish Tarot, really beautiful with any color deck. It would go also well with Farbender Engel and etc, etc, lots of color decks. But I also really enjoyed the little booklet that Christine Zillish wrote. It's really, really cool. So highly recommended for any tarot lovers, but especially if you like working with color. And then also the last deck, you know, there was many more, but just the last deck that I'm going to show in relation to this color oracle, or second last, sorry, was a deck that I received from a swap. So I was looking for this deck. It's the Color Marsh Oracle. I had it at some point and then I swapped it, I think, and I wanted it back because of course it's all color, so please. And then one of my old clients contacted me and said she would swap for a reading, which was so cool. So thank you very much. And this deck also goes, of course, really well with the Color Vision Oracle, because you can just draw on colors and create a color story, right? So yeah, this deck is so pretty. So the Color Marsh, this is one of the first editions, I think, when the little keywords are very, very faint. So I received also this hand-produced list of keywords and connections to chakras. So beautiful. I love, and this beautiful bag as well. I mean, thank you. I'm very grateful. So this color deck goes with many other decks, and I will show it again with 2 other decks that I received. Okay, and then the last color infused deck was the Painted Tarot by Sophie McKay Knight. She also kind of popped back up, you know, to work together with the Color Vision Oracle and 3 of Swords and Restore. That's pretty cool, right? I just love doing this, even if it's just for fun, trying to figure out how, for example, the card of anger goes with 10 of Cups, which seems like opposite of anger, but it could be also over sweeten, people pleasing, you know, there is some other ways we can see or try to see how maybe avoiding anger could be a part of 10 of Cups. That's cool. Yeah, so these are the color related decks, and at least some of them that like really were inspired to be used by Oracle, Color Vision Oracle. Okay, love this deck and the booklet, so good. Okay, another deck that kind of also is related to color but inspired me to use some different decks is the Tarot is Color by Ethel Colquhoun, and I bought this one secondhand, and it's amazing. And there is also a client of mine or a subscriber that sent me some images from the exhibition that's happening either in Tate Britain or in Tate Modern, somewhere in London, where you can see some of the original artwork of Ethel Colquhoun's decks. And this deck is very tangible. It's not a deck that you would pull a lot of cards from. I usually just pull one card and sit with it because I tend to be feeling these images in my body. So it's a very meditative approach to Toph again. So there we go. Toph deck is coming back big time with color related issues, just because she uses Golden Dawn associations as well when she was creating those meditative images. And what I love, what's on the booklet here, it says, after I had completed the pack, I saw some slides showing nebulas in outer space and the birth of stars. These recalled my designs and confirmed my conviction of their cosmographic function. So you know that I'm an astrologer. I love the constellational astrology. I love tropical astrology as well. Love them both, you know. In my mind, there is always space for different systems, and different systems teach us different things at different times. But observing the stars and working with the fixed stars, working with constellations and with mythology of this, and being connected to the real sky makes this deck and, you know, this quote even more important. So what this deck sparked of, you know, me pulling out of my shelves is my favorite ever edition of the Toph Tarot. This is the Polish edition, but I'm talking about the newest edition of AGM Urania, so AGM Müller. It's this edition with the extra cards of Frida Kahlo, I wanted to say, Frida Harris and Alistair Crowley. And this is the Polish edition and had that card as well. And the coloring of this deck is just so incredible. So because the cards of the tarot is color up very huge, sometimes pulling one card, and what I usually do, I don't pull this one random, I pull randomly a card from Tarot's color, and then I search for the other for the same card in the Toph deck. So for example, I would like to find right now, because you know we were just talking about a Dominion, right? 2 of Wands. So something is here in the consciousness, something is coming through this card of 2 of Wands, which is Mars in Aries, which is a lot of fire and a lot of power and to use, right? But like, how do we direct the power? Sometimes the power, even if we feel it and we have this spark, it just like sips through our fingers. Sometimes we over abuse it and, you know, manipulate or are too aggressive or too harsh or too rushed in our approach. So here we go, a lot of dominion. And I would sit with these two cards. I'm going to do it just after I finish this video. And these are the backs. And I'm going to first tune into this one without being influenced by the tarot itself. React to the red, which has so much to do with fire, with anger, with Martian energy, with passion, with active approach. And yet the blue is much more calming, right? And it's connected to water. So it's like, in some way, how do we shape the water without like evaporating it? When we put too much fire, we boil it too long, you know, and it changes the state. How do we create some form of balance between the two, but also with a very kind of active approach? Because Two of Wands invites us to action, right? Wands in general have a lot of fire. That's what I see right now. This is King of Wands, and this is Four of Wands. And this deck demands time, so it's not a instant gratification deck. And yeah, together they just, you know, they make just an interesting take, and maybe a good encouragement of how you can learn more about the coloring and associations of Golden Dawn, and more about Thoth in general and this approach. So here we have Justice. We were talking about Justice as well. All right, so yeah, so this, let me pull out Tarot's color. Let me pull out, and reminded me of using more this Thoth edition, which is incredible. And also it asked me to kind of, I don't know, ask me, you know, I also pulled out the Death Doula Oracle, which is so beautiful. I love this deck. You know, in some way now I see a lot of people posting Rose-based Blue Bones Oracle. This deck has the same type of melancholy for me. It's a different deck, of course. I think these Blue Bones is more for heart-related, like breakup issues, and a lot of these cards, at least, seem to me very relational. This one is, you know, it's much more kind of universal, I'd say, for times of change, for times of different, like, look at this, so cool, different initiations, and again, I just sit with it. Both of these decks are very kind of slow. It's not something that's very obvious when it comes to images on the cards, and you will have to really find a personal connection to the image to really understand the keyword. And also the booklet, of course, it's quite extensive in the Death Doula Oracle, but it has this modern, like this one is, you know, solitude. It's very moody. It's kind of can be even sad, right? Here I have also Ace of Discs, because somehow this reminded me of human body and how maybe we all crave body-to-body connection, and how the times are changing, but also about, you know, in times of solitude, maybe taking especially extra care for your body. How beautiful is this for a lower world? And here, Eight of Discs. There's so many wonderful connections that can be made. And, you know, using tarot and using oracle decks as a expression of art, this helps me to connect to my own artistic expression, to my own inner beauty, and makes me really appreciate and, you know, take even 5 minutes a day to just slow down and look at something amazing, and make connections that might totally mean nothing to anybody else but to myself, and yet slow down and, you know, smell the roses or smell the flowers. Ah, this one, I finished on this one, but how cool is this? It just came randomly, right? So we have work and we have 6 of discs, the Lord of Material Success. So these two work really well together, and again, I just love doing this type of playing, you know, with tarot and oracle decks. So that was Tarot as Color, a new deck that invited 2 old decks to play. Let's move on because it feels like a long video. Another one that came recently was Tarot of Individuation. It's not the newest deck, but it actually, through the images, it's such a beautiful, symbolic, it's based on Jungian philosophy, or, you know, Jungian approach deck. And it's very archetypal, it's very dreamlike. You can probably work with this deck with dreams, but also just on anything that, you know, shadow work, anything that requires of you contemplation, slowing down and going within the image a little bit more, and finding then those ways, those little threads back to your life, back to your earthly existence, because that's what we want to also use tarot for, right? To make ourselves more informed and to enrich our lives on earth in this 3D dimension. So this deck, because of the artwork, specifically I pulled it recently, they had like this figurine that was like taken straight from the Crimson Asteria Tarot. If you follow me on Instagram, I share that daily, so you can also take a look at this, because I share just my daily draws. But a couple of cards, and in general a lot of these cards from Tarot of Individuation reminds me of Crimson Asteria Tarot. This is one of my favorite decks, and I pulled it out, of course, especially recently because of this deck. So, you know, Crimson Asteria comes with these pink kind of colors and a lot of reds and shades of reds, and I just find it so incredibly beautiful, especially like with the booklet as well. And also they both come from a very feminine kind of not otherworldly, but like dreamlike level of awareness, when then myth and allegory and metaphor and story and, you know, celestial beings that look strange and they are kind of like dreamlike figures connect us to something that's deep within us as well. They like come alive in our psyche very, you know, at every day, I guess. And this is how we can also listen to them, give them voice, and maybe try to cooperate, or through conversation, or, you know, understanding and widening our psyches. So these decks are cool together, like really, really cool. And I love it. So let's stay with these two for that. Tarot of Individuation and Crimson Asteria Tarot. And then this is not decks, but all these happenings that are going on around, you know, the comet, 3i, Atlas, Sirius, Venus, Jupiter conjunction that we could all have witnessed with our own minds. As I mentioned, I had a lot of crystals because I used to make crystal wands. I used to work with crystals really intimately for a long time, years, okay? So over a couple of last years, crystal went a little bit on the back burner because I haven't really made wands, I haven't worked with them, but they always kind of around me in my room. And a couple of weeks ago, I seriously had like this buzz from crystals, and I tend to have conversations with my stones. So if you think I'm crazy, just switch off now, go enjoy your day. But I have conversations with my crystals, and I really had this kind of like push or nudge to create a reading, which I called Crystal Ally Guidance, and use them. They specifically said not just pull cards, you know, I do have different crystal oracles, not just pull cards from the deck. They kind of said use them and my personal connection to them, because they're going to give me insights for the person I'm doing the reading for, of extra level of information, because each of these crystals I have a story with, or many stories, and that's what they want to also somehow universally convey to the person that, let's say, I draw this stone for, or you know, this one that comes from Mount Shasta, or this one that comes from Siberia or closer to Kamchatka, which is interesting because recently there was this huge earthquake there, and so the stones themselves kind of because of these readings, I pulled a couple of decks that I haven't used for a very, very long time, okay? So one is this liquid crystal oracle, and this is connected to Lemurian energy, because this person who created it, Justin, I can't remember his surname, sorry, but it's called Liquid Crystal Oracle. I think it's still available. He connects them to Mayan tones, and there is like angelic beings. He uses light language, etc., etc., and it's a very complex as well system. But there's a lot of interesting information that I also kind of personally received from some of the stones, and they confirm, like they kind of back each other, so I kind of find it interesting. And then I studied with Naisha Zian and her deck, which I think it's not available anymore because she went all Christ by now, but she was a wonderful teacher and taught me a lot about how to approach work with crystals, how to not you know, trust just somebody else's descriptions, but really connect with the energies of the stone through your own energy, and observe how certain stones, how do they make you feel and what's happening around in your life, and do a lot of meditation with this, and create space to actually understand what they're trying to show you, you know. So all of this I would like to, all of this I would kind of, I was asked somehow to use in the readings, and the other one is like the Lavish Earth Oracle, which I've had for a very long time as well. I love this deck because it uses a lot of cool quotes, and it's just very like clear cut and has sweet information as an oracle. So this one came out as well, and because of the like energetic way of working with the stones, of course I work with the color decks, but I also pulled the Fifth Tarot recently because it gave me a lot of insights. And Martin and Teresina, I have an interview with them as well. I highly recommend checking it out. He connects them to the cards to different essential oils as well. He's an aromatherapist, and also he connects. He also mentioned often different stones, and just I like when people find connections through different associations. So this deck also comes up often because I not only use the stone to get you a message, I also use draw cards, not many, but I usually draw some cards and I tune in and also watch what's coming to me through my intuition, but also what's happening around me, you know. Sometimes I go for a walk and see what I notice, what animal comes through, etc. So this reading is definitely not for everybody, but if you believe that you can get a message from a stone, please take a look at this. I will link it below. And then the last two decks that I received were the Scion Tarot and Sigils. And I really like them. They kind of bold and cool and witchy. So I have also did a review of these two decks, so you can take a look at my recent video. Love this deck, and this one because of its bold colors like this and quite interesting, you know, artwork. Asked me somehow to pull the Sacred Creators Oracle, which I haven't used for years, but I still have that very first version that Chris N has put out herself. She published herself. Now it's mass produced, but you know, it just has these the colors that go with this deck. So anything that you know, this deck goes with anything really, but I just like it when you have a tarot deck and then you have also an oracle deck that maybe informs something different in the card that you haven't thought about. That's why I like connecting tarot and oracle decks. So Sacred Creators Oracle works really well with this one. I also use this deck, the Color Mage Oracle that I showed up with this deck. And what's interesting, what else I kind of felt like pulling out of it for the color decks, but also for this witchy deck, because it's also quite alchemical actually, is the Messages from the Light. And I have been doing, and this one I also use quite often in the crystal readings, because I strongly believe that this Joyce Huntington, the creator of this deck, I feel she tapped into something very special with this deck, because this deck, you know how some people, some teachers, some decks, they have transmission. If somebody taps into that universal something that they're creating, because they're different subjects, right? This is the Messages from Light, but it can be a nature deck, it can be a tarot deck, it can be color deck, whatever, you know. But if you tap into this unspoken but tangible magic of creative force, I feel like then the cards have this extra special transmission, and that's why some decks are really kind of timeless and you know, they give you something extra, like an energy boost that comes with each card. And I believe this deck has that. And I sometimes used it with this deck, but also just as information or extra layer of information from the stones, just because I love the energy in this deck, and I think it was created with the right intention in heart, and it was created not for the sake of just selling the deck, but with intention of healing and expanding people who use this. So I really love this deck, and I use it for myself quite a lot, but recently I have been doing also readings just with this deck, and I think it's quite interesting what comes up, especially when you do a lot of, you know, self-work, and you have this contemplative approach to every day. Okay, all right guys, I think that's it. I'm always planning to do shorter videos, but then in the end it is what it is. So just before I head off, please take a look at the Crystal Alley guidance and the reading, and also at some of the astrology readings that I offer. I highly recommend right now, for this point in time, to check out your non-traditional constellational astrology reading with 13 constellations, just so you get a sense of where in the real sky you can place yourself, and what constellations, what stars maybe were really important for you, so that you can do maybe a deeper research. Because I feel like right now we're really expanding into this multidimensionality, and who knows if, you know, there is parts of us living on this different dimension, and we coming in contact with them and becoming more whole. And all of this is happening simultaneously, who knows. But I think it's quite important to also know that direct link to the constellational astrology, and I highly recommend either getting the reading from myself, which is called Spiral Astrology, I will link it below, or from anybody else you trust, you know. So let me know how you're going. I do feel quite exhausted actually, but you know, life goes on, and I think like by the end of August, so right now, and you know, from September, all the planets that were changing signs into the new ones will slowly start moving backwards into the old signs from tropical astrology perspective. So we'll see how that kind of pulls us back maybe into the older narratives, but I want you to keep the vision on, because from February 2026 we will be back on track and back with the momentum. So if you feel a little bit more of discouragement, frustration, or kind of feeling tired, we're going back to Pisces, we're going back to Taurus from tropical signs, and that might create also some sense of like false start, or not being quite able to, you know, get with the momentum. But the momentum will return in February 2026 and then onwards. So hold on. Bye.